Have you ever spent hours knitting only to realize at the end that your garment doesn't actually fit at all? That was me with this sweater. I have knit many garments and not all of them have fit how I wanted or expected them to. And so I decided that I do not want to gamble on the fit of my knits anymore, and so I spent hours researching on what actually makes a garment fit. Today I am here to test it out to see if I can finally knit the perfect sweater for me. To get started on planning for the perfect sweater, I followed this incredible class by Shirley Payton called Hand Knit Garment Design. This is a class that is available on Craftsy, who is also the sponsor of this video. My first sponsorship. How exciting! Craftsy is an online community and resource where millions of like-minded creatives, crafters, and makers find creative inspiration, advance their skills, and learn new ones along the way. Craftsy offers more than 2,000 exciting classes over 20 popular categories, some of which are knitting, crochet, sewing, painting, and many more. Classes are broken down into easy-to-follow lessons and are led by friendly, award-winning instructors who share their creative wisdom as they provide step-by-step demonstration. Craftsy is my go-to resource for all things creative. There are so many classes that I have been meaning to take and that I have also taken and learned so much from. For example, I really want to take the class called Travel Sketching in Mixed Media. That is just something that I have always been intrigued by, using multiple different medias to do an illustration. Another class that I've been looking at is the picture book illustration for animal creatures. To knitting specifically, they also have many classes such as short row techniques, fixing your knits, and I've also taken this tutorial called Wear What You Knit, Perfect Sweater Fits and Style, which has been super helpful in today's video in learning what actually makes a garment fit your body and your body's proportions. And also the final class that I'm basing this entire video on, which is called Hand Knit Garment Design by Shirley Payton. That is a super helpful class. She has taught so much from really the start of knitting a garment, from choosing the yarn, coming up with design, all the way to learning how many increases to do, how to intersperse your increases and your decreases. It is super helpful, and so I would totally recommend checking that class out. The good news is the first 1,000 people who click on my link in the video description down below will be able to get a full year of Craftsy Premium membership at only $1.49. This offer is valid for new members only. If you are interested in checking out the classes that are available at Craftsy, go ahead and click on the link down below. As always, grab a cup of tea. I am drinking roasted green teas. It is in this super cute Totoro mug, and of course grab your knitting, or in this case if you're planning to follow along with the video, I would recommend getting a notebook and a pen to just jot down some notes as well. And let's dive right in. First, let's talk design. Of course you're free to do a sweater of any design that you want, but for me I want a sweater with a simple classic design, the kind of sweater that you can wear multiple days in a row without anyone realizing that it is the same sweater. At the same time, I do not want it to be too simple, so I'm adding 2 design features to this sweater. Here is a very detailed mock-up of my design. Can you see the vision? Let's explain the sweater from the top down, and at the same time I will put some sweater inspo pics probably somewhere around here so that it'll be easier for you guys to visualize it as well. So starting from the neckline, I am planning to knit a collar that is somewhat in between a crew neck as well as a mock turtleneck. The collar is the thing that I am most unsure of. I am not sure exactly what I want to do. I do not know if I want it folded or single, and I am thinking of ending it just a little bit tinier than where this current top is, so maybe a little bit closer to my neck. But at the same time, I do not want to knit a turtleneck anymore. My last 2 sweaters were turtlenecks and I do not need a 3rd sweater with a turtleneck. I am interested in the color of sweater number 14. I think the sweater number 14 is a sweater that looks super sleek. It has a very Scandinavian style to it, and I think it's just very clean, minimalistic, and I do like the white ribbing that is going on over there as well, and I will talk about the ribbing but later. So after the collar, let's just talk about the shoulders. I am planning to do a saddle shoulder design. I love garments with a saddle shoulder design, but I have yet to knit a sweater with a saddle shoulder design for some reason, so I think it would be nice to have a saddle shoulder as well to add to the mix. And the size of the saddle shoulder I think will fit the size and the length, actually more so the width of the saddle shoulder panel on my tee number 1, because I like the fit of this tee. I'll measure it afterwards when we are talking about measurements, but for now this is kind of the vision that I'm thinking of. And also this is a simple saddle shoulder construction with no design at all, but I am planning to add a nice design that goes along the top of my shoulders all the way down the arms. So I'm thinking of a kind of loose braided cable. The reason why I was thinking of having a design going down the shoulder over here and the arm is because of the Pretty Loop sweater, or in my case the Pretty Loop tee, which is what I'm actually knitting right now. I love the cabling that is following the contours of the shoulders. So the cuffs of the sleeves and the hem of the body will be finished in a 2x2 rib. At least that is what I'm thinking. It might change, I'm not so sure. I do like the sweater number 14. I feel like she didn't do a 2x2 rib, but something slightly bigger than that. Maybe a 4x2 rib, it seems. I am going to pick up stitches to knit the collar last, so that is something that I can kind of sit on and see how the overall look of the sweater would be like. So the first design feature is the cables that's going down the shoulder. The second design feature is the cuffs of the sleeves and the hem of the body, which I kind of want to be a more dramatic kind of ribbing, so not the short ribbing that we all associate with sweaters, but something that is slightly longer. I'm thinking maybe something like that. So starting off just above the wrist, no, actually quite above the wrist, and then ending just below the wrist. I also really love the curved hem that is on the Astrid sweater. If you were to look at the bottom hem of the Astrid sweater, it kind of goes in a curve down like that and is rounded at the edge rather than a normal split hem, which is a rectangular piece, and that is something that looks really nice as well. However, the Astrid sweater achieves that because it is a bottom-up construction. For me, I am planning to do a top-down construction because I just find that the easiest to just try on and see and check the fit as I go. So I do not want my first self-drafted sweater to be a bottom-up sweater. I think I may go crazy trying to bring that to completion. So instead of working bottom-up to achieve that curved hem look, how I am thinking of achieving it is instead with German short rows, and I think that this is a technique that is done in the mouse tee, a pattern by Ozetta, and it is a tee that I have been meaning to knit for quite a while as well because I've been intrigued by the special look that the curved hem looks at the body. So I bought this pattern. I went to see if she does it how I was thinking of knitting mine, and that's exactly how she was thinking of knitting it as well. So I will probably just kind of follow the concept of the mouse tee in knitting the curved hem. It will look slightly different from the Astrid sweater, but still the overall look is the same. So for me personally, my past two sweaters were the Euro sweater and the Flurry sweater. Both of those sweaters had a super baggy, oversized fit. If you watched my previous podcast, I think it was podcast number 3 and 4, I was talking about the Flurry sweater and saying how I was a bit disappointed with the depth of the yoke and how it was way too oversized. For my self-drafted sweater, I want something with less positive ease and also something that is a little bit shorter. So far, all my sweaters have been like big, oversized, baggy, and so I didn't really measure all those, but I think they are at like 15 cm of positive ease or like 20 cm of positive ease. It is super baggy. With the Flurry sweater, I changed it a lot more, but I believe it was supposed to have like 40 cm of positive ease. It doesn't look so sleek and polished in that sense, and so I do want a shorter sweater, something that ends like the bottom of the hem is gonna end just below the button on my jeans. So that's how I'm comparing that. I'm thinking that I want my ribbing to start just above my belly button because it's going to be an exaggerated ribbing. I'm going to end my sweater proper above the belly button, and then I'll change to knitting the ribbing and I'll end just below the button on my high-waisted jeans. By the way guys, I also want to add that this is not a tutorial by any means. It is more me sharing my experience in doing my first self-drafted sweater that fits well, that hopefully fits well. But if this experiment, if you will, is successful, then by all means you can consider this a tutorial. Talking about all of these like lengths and positive ease, I feel like it ties in really nicely with the next chapter, which is measurements. So first things first, you want to grab a sweater or a sweatshirt that is probably your favorite sweater, something that you like the fit of and wear very often. For me, it is the Eras Tour sweatshirt. Actually, this is my first time wearing the sweater, but I unfortunately do not have very many sweaters to begin with. If you guys are new to this channel, if this is your first video, I'm actually a tropical knitter, or a knitter living in a tropical climate, so I actually do not have many sweaters or sweatshirts that are in my cupboard, and so this is what we are working on and working with. I'm super excited for her new album, by the way. But first, some questions that I want to ask myself. Do I like the fit of the body? Obviously not for this. You can see the amount of positive ease. So this question of do I like the fit of the body and the sleeves is kind of asking, do I like the amount of positive or negative, or in this case positive ease that is happening on the sweatshirt. So basically this amount of positive ease, this amount of positive ease on the body. I probably don't. So I mean, ideally if you were to be wearing a sweater that you love the fit of, then hopefully you'll be able to determine how much positive ease you want to work into your final sweater garment based on this particular measurements. And other questions is, do I like the length of the body and the sleeves? Obviously for me, once again, slightly too long. I want something maybe a bit shorter, like something like that. But it's still good information because I can kind of extrapolate it from what I have currently, so that's something for me to work on. Lastly, do I like how or where the collar sits? So actually for this, I'm quite happy with how this collar fits, so I'll probably do something similar to that. So because of that, I can probably measure how long the saddle shoulder should be based on where I like the collar fitting, and I can also use this to measure the circumference of the collar, see how wide the neck should be, see the difference between the back and the front portion of the garment to see how many German short rows I need to incorporate into the back, things like that. So there's actually a lot of information that you can glean from just wearing your favorite sweatshirt. So now let's move on to body measurements proper. You might want to get someone to help you with this. Before you start doing your measurements, you want to change into something that is a bit more form-fitting. So for me, it is this bralette over here. So definitely much more of a tight and close fit to my body so that you can measure the exact measurements. There are a lot of measurements to make actually, so let me just talk you through step by step the kind of measurements that you need to make, and then I'll just overlay the video of me actually doing those measurements so that you can kind of have a visual idea of how you're supposed to go about with those measurements. And definitely I'll do my best to try to explain those measurements to you guys, but Shirley Payton will definitely do a much better job than I will. The first measurement that you want to start off with is the shoulder to shoulder, also known as a cross back measurement. So that is from the bony point of one shoulder over here to the bony point of the shoulder over on the other side. You definitely need someone to help you for this because you have to stand really straight and just like that so that you can get a good measurement. So what you want to do first is to hunch a little bit. So just hunch down like that. Get someone to feel your bone over here to see where your bony area is, where it ends, and then stand straight, and then the person will measure those two bony points to get the cross back measurement. The next thing that you want to measure is your bust, so just measure around the widest point of your bust. The next thing that you want to measure is your shoulder to armhole length, so from the top of the shoulder to basically the underarm. And the idea behind that is because you want to see how thick your sleeve is going to be. Of course, you're going to have some allowance afterwards because no sleeve is going to be like super tight. I mean, unless that's something that you want, but generally speaking, there should be a bit of ease that is incorporated into a sleeve. We'll do that afterwards, incorporating either positive or negative ease into some of these measurements. So the next thing that you want to measure is your waist. So this is not super imperative for me specifically because I am planning to do just a straight cut sweater, but this waist measurement is good for you if, number one, your waist is bigger than your bust, so you need to do some increases for the allowance of your waist. The second reason is if you're planning to do some shaping for the sweater to make it a little bit more fitted towards your form of your body. So if you're planning to go in a little bit like that, then you have to kind of measure your waist to know just how many decreases you need to do. The next thing that you want to measure is your neck width, of which there are actually two measurements to do. This is so that you can get a range of lengths in which the collar will be comfortable for your neck. So the first thing is the smallest minimum neck width. So just put both hands around either side of your neck. That is the neck width. So just two fingers kind of like protruding out like that, and then your friend can help to measure the neck width based on these two fingers. After you're done with the minimum neck width, you want to put your fingers kind of like follow along the contour to the max point where your arms can't move anymore, and that is your maximum neck width. So something like that. I can't go any further than this without straining my elbows if I were to keep it straight in front of me. Measure the maximum neck width, and this is the range that you can work with. However, for me, I think I will gauge this more from my Eras Tour sweatshirt. So the next thing that you want to measure is your neck depth. So first, you want to measure the back neck bone to a specific point, basically an arbitrary point. For me, I used the bottom of my bralette over here because it is kind of straight from front to back. So I just use that as an arbitrary point. You want to measure from the base of the neck and then 1 inch below that to kind of get where the base of your neck is. For me, it is a bit difficult as a first timer. I'm not exactly sure if I got the point correct. Do the same measurements for the front. So the midpoint of both clavicles, which is basically this point over here, measure from that point all the way to this point, and then you subtract these two readings off of each other, and the difference between the back and the front is basically your neck depth, which is basically the measurement that you take into consideration when thinking of basically short row shaping for the back, so that the back panel will be a little bit higher than the front panel. When you hold, not even a sweatshirt, just any t-shirt really, for the most part, the back would be a bit higher than the front. So this difference between this part here and this part here, that is your neck depth. Of course, you can adjust it accordingly, but in general, the difference between these two readings are around 1 to 2 inches. So that is just something, if for me, I don't think I got the numbers readings exactly right. So if I'm not too confident in those readings, I would probably just gauge it off of my Era sweatshirt, or I would just do to a rough 1.5 inches. The next thing that you want to measure is your sleeve length. So that's pretty easy. You just measure from your underarm over here to the point where you want your sleeve to end. So if you want it to be a bit oversized, for me, I want my sleeve to end somewhere here, but I measured it here just in case, because for my Euro sweater, after washing it, blocking it, it expanded an incredible amount, and I will be working with the same type of wool as well, so Peruvian Highland wool. So I'm afraid that the same thing will happen, so I'm just going to work to a bit shorter than where I actually want the final sleeve length to be, to kind of compensate for that. When you're measuring the sleeve length, you do not want to keep your arms like straight like that. You want to kind of relax it a little bit, so keep a slight curve, something like that. Then measure from the underarm all the way down, following the contour of your arm throughout, and that will be your sleeve length. The next thing that you want to measure is your upper arm circumference. So upper arm circumference just means this part here, and then you find the widest point of your arm, measure around that, and that is your upper arm circumference. Afterwards, you want to find your wrist circumference. So if you're planning to do like a tapered sleeve, this is going to be quite important. Of course, if you're planning to do just a baggy oversized sleeve, then, or a straight cut sleeve, then the wrist circumference wouldn't matter as much. There are 2 readings that you need to make for the wrist circumference. So the first thing that you want to measure is, of course, around your wrist. So just this point over here, your wrist, just measure that, simple. The second measurement that you want to measure is, so how Shirley Payton taught it was basically take your hand, put the thumb underneath your hand like that. I'm giving you the sagittal view of my hand, and you can see here that it's tucked in, and then you want to measure along the knuckle area over the thumb. The reason behind why she takes this reading as well is because when we are putting our hand through the sleeve, basically this is how you wear a sleeve, where you tuck your thumb in. So you take whatever is the bigger measurement of the two. So if your wrist is the bigger measurement, take that as your final wrist circumference. If this is your bigger measurement, then this is your actual wrist circumference, or at least that is the kind of circumference of your sleeve you want to end at, so that you can wear your sleeve with no issue. After that is done, the next thing that you want to measure, and the last thing that I measured, is just the length of the sweater. And I am not too fast about this length because I am doing a top-down sweater. I can just measure as I go. How I measured it was just from my shoulders all the way to my belly button, a little bit up above it, because after that I will be doing my ribbing. And yeah, I'm kind of lazy to take measurements for those for now, because I generally don't ever measure my sweater as I go. I just try it on as I go, or like any garments in general. So that is all the measurements that you need to get started on making your sweater. There are definitely so many more measurements that you can and should take if you're planning to make, for example, a dress or something that is longer or more fitted than your average sweater size. So if you're planning to do like a super tailored full measurement kind of style, I would totally recommend just watching the Shirley Payton lesson and class, because she goes way more in depth in the measurements. I believe she has around 17 measurements in total. I have maybe like 10 to 12 measurements, so I definitely took out a few measurements that I deemed slightly more unnecessary for the sweater design and construction that I'm planning to make specifically. So now that I have all of my measurements, it is time to do some math, because you need to turn your centimeters and your inches into stitches and rows. Let's do some math. I have the yarn. This is how it looks like here. So this is the Sand is Gone Pure Git, and this is my first time using this yarn, so I'm super excited to try it out and just see how this yarn works out to be. This is a 75% Norwegian wool and 25% Peruvian tweed from wool. The one that I got has some tweed flecks in it. So I would say this shade is a light warm brown kind of color. This is the color 2720. I don't believe there's a name. I can't really find the name on the website or on this label itself, but it is 2720. So if you guys are planning to buy the same yarn, this is the color. It is very beautiful. It has a very light warm brown color, which as you know, I gravitate towards warm colors, being a light spring kind of color palette, color season person. On it you can see many tiny colorful tweed flecks, and in it there are some different colors like this electric blue, some red, even yellow, my favorite color over here, and green as well. There are actually a lot of lovely colorful flecks. It is beautiful. I'm so glad I bought it, and I'm so excited to see how it looks like worked up, given that my sweater is mostly stockinette except for the braided cables that are going along the arms and everything. I just wanted a yarn that's a little bit more interesting. So now let's talk about converting all of the measurements that you've gotten into a schematic. So let me share my screen on my iPad as well. And by the way, this is my second time filming this. The first time I tried to film it, I was totally unsure about what I was talking about, so I kept going back and forth and it was super convoluted. I was trying to edit my video just now and it was just not making a whole lot of sense, and so I decided to film a second time. And of course, being that this is the second time that I'm filming this after having edited the video, I've also finished my sweater, so I feel like I'm in a better position to explain everything a bit more properly right now. So I've also finished my gauge swatch, and this is how it looks like. It's super drapey. I used 5mm needles for this, I believe. So 5mm needles for this, and it results in a really good drape. The suggested needle size is actually 4 to 4.5mm if I remember correctly, but I do love the final fabric that the 5mm needle really gives to the garment. So now that you've got your gauge swatch, you want to calculate it, measure it, just to see how many stitches and rows you have in a 10 by 10 cm square or 4 by 4 inches. And afterwards I converted it into per cm, so 1.7 stitches or 2 by 3 rows per cm. If you're working in inches, then you want to find out how many stitches and rows are present in 1 inch. So that is how you're going to convert your measurements into stitches and rows afterwards. So I am going to talk to you now about the schematic, and of course this is the PDF that was provided by Shirley Payton's class. So I find this schematic super helpful because it helps me to see what measurements I need and what kind of conversions I need to do as well. So let me start from the bottom up and I'll explain the numbers that are going on over here as well. So starting from the bottom, so this point over here, if you see my yellow highlight, so this is going to be my bust measurement. So I'm just gonna write over here, maybe in a different color. Shall I do yellow as well? So this is bust. So this is the bust measurement. For me, my bust is 79 cm, so I wanted 15 cm of positive ease. So the colors in green are my normal body measurements. The red or pink colors are the positive ease that I want to include into my measurements. And then the brown is, of course, after I've converted into the final stitches as a result of the positive ease that has been incorporated. For my bust, it is 79 cm, and then I add 15 cm of positive ease, and then after I get the final number, which is 94 cm, I divide this by 2, which is 47 cm. The reason why I divided by 2 is because I am just focused on it not as a circumference but as a panel. So I'm looking at it as a front panel. The front panel will be 47 cm, the back panel will be another 47 cm, and that will give me the total amount of 94 cm, which is my body measurements plus 15 cm of positive ease included. So now that I've gotten 47 cm, I want to convert that into stitches, and so I will just multiply it by 1.7, which is my gauge swatch, and that gives me 79.9 stitches, which obviously we need to round up to the nearest number. So for me, I decided on 80 stitches. The reason why I decided to round up instead of rounding down is also largely actually because of the fact that I want to have a number that is divisible by 5. Reason being, my ribbing is in multiples of 5, 2 knit stitches and 3 purl stitches. So I want it to be divisible by 5, and since it's 79.9 is the closest to 80, I just rounded it up to 80. Now, if you see this area over here and over here where I just highlighted as well, this whole entire section over here is basically one long tube. So I'm just knitting straight all the way from the bottom up, and the reason being is because I do not want to do any decreases. I just want a straight kind of sweater shape. But of course, if you wanted an A-line shape, if you wanted it to cinch in, then this is not going to be a tube with the same measurements, and you have to account for that as well. But for my specific sweater, I am not concerned with that. So all the way up to the point that I highlighted, the yellow portion, that is going to be 80 stitches all the way through. And now going on to my next measurement. Now you see this red line over here. Now this is the cross back measurement, so let me just write that for you. So this is the cross back measurement. This looks like it's fairly low on the garment, but in actuality this final stitch count of 60 stitches is actually right before you do the increases for the armholes. So normally you work the front panel in straight stockinette, then you at some point over here you start increasing for the armholes, and also this incorporates the bust as well, because at the peak of the bust area you do want to already be at the 80 stitches. So this is actually the cross back measurement right before you do the increases for the armholes, if that makes sense. And so for this particular measurement, my shoulder to shoulder or cross back measurement is 27 cm. I decided to do 35.5 cm or 14 inches for my cross back measurement because to have a little bit of ease in it as well. So I do believe my original cross back measurement was actually 33 cm, and then I added 2.5 cm or 1 inch of positive ease, and that gave me 35.5 cm or 14 inches. So I used the 35.5 cm and I multiply it once again by 1.7 stitches, and that gives me 60 stitches. It is actually 60.35, but I rounded it down just to make it an even number so that I can increase evenly on both sides. Basically, because I want to cast on 4 stitches on this side over here and on this side over here to account for the width of my body, I just did 80 minus 4 and then minus 4 another time to account for the right and the left hand sides, and that gave me a final stitch count of 72. So basically, at the point where I cast on extra stitches for the underarms, I am already supposed to have 72 stitches, which means that I need to do 12 increases from the cross back measurement before I start doing the increases for my armholes all the way down here. So this highlighted portion over here, this has to be, sorry, let me just do that again. So basically this highlighted portion over here, I am supposed to do 6 increases on each side. So plus 6 stitches, and then on the right hand side plus 6 stitches as well. So that will give me 60 plus 12, which is 72, and afterwards I just cast on 4 stitches on either side, which gives me the final stitch count of 80 right at the underarm area. So that's how I finally arrived at 80 stitches. So that's how you did this whole area over here, and now I'm gonna work upwards again to this portion over here. So this area is also once again the cross back measurement. So basically the 14 cm that you see over there, that is my neck width measurement that I did. So my neck width had to be within the range of 11.5 cm to 20 cm, and for me I decided to have a final neck width to be 14 cm. So 14 cm at this point over here. I based this off my Eras Tour sweatshirt. After I have 14 cm in place, what I did was just basically do 35.5 cm minus 14 cm, divided it by 2, which gives me 10.75 cm. I believe I just rounded it down to 10.5, and that's how I finally arrived at 10.5 cm for my shoulder panel. Now with this being said, if you see this 2 cm over here at this point, the reason why I put 2 cm there is because I actually picked up for my collar right at the end after I've already done my shoulder panels and everything else. So because I'm going to be picking up for my collar and knitting at least 2 cm of the length of the collar, I wanted to incorporate that into my shoulder panel, because if I were to knit my shoulder panel to be 10.5 cm in length from this portion here and this portion here, then that is going to eat up the 14 cm of allowance that I had given for my neck. It would result in a neck width of being 10 cm. I did not want that to happen, so in order to add 14 cm of neck allowance, I have to kind of eat up 2 cm of my shoulder panel on either side so that I can incorporate my collar into that final measurement. I hope this is making sense. By the way, if you guys have any questions, do comment them down below. I will try my best to answer the questions. Yeah, I just hope that I am making sense here. You know, so now that you understand that I need 2 cm of allowance on either side, instead of doing 14 cm, I do 14 plus 2 cm on this side and another 2 cm on the left hand side, and that gives me 18 cm. I multiply that by 1.7 stitches, and that gives me 30.6 stitches, or 30 stitches. I rounded it down because it kind of makes more sense. So 30 stitches just means I have to cast on 30 stitches for my neck area after finishing the shoulder panel on either side. So that is the 30 stitches. As for the 15 stitches, I didn't really focus on that. It just means that I need to pick up 15 stitches for either side of the shoulder panel after knitting the saddle shoulder. And how I arrived at 15 stitches is basically the 60 stitches at the cross back measurement minus 30 stitches over here and divided by 2, which gives me 15 stitches on either side. In knitting the actual saddle shoulder itself, I have to decide how long I want the saddle shoulder to be. For the width, I followed the width of the saddle shoulder on my T number 1. I think it was 10 cm. So 10 multiplied by 1.7 gives me 17 stitches, but I ended up doing my saddle shoulder to 18 stitches instead because I wanted 3 pole stitches on either side to really demarcate my cables from the rest of the body. And I wanted the cable itself to have 12 stitches. So that's why I decided to do it at 18 stitches, even though the measurement actually said 17. Now that I've gotten the width of my saddle shoulder, I need the length to know how long to knit my saddle shoulder to, and that is derived from the 10.5 cm. So 10.5 cm, as I said, I had to remove 2 cm from it, so my final length of the saddle shoulder is around 8.5 cm. Now, because it's a saddle shoulder, you don't use the stitch count for this, you use the row gauge for this, because the panel is going to be like that. You're gonna knit outwards like that. So you're looking at the row gauge, not the stitch count. And so 8.5 multiplied by 2.3 rows gives me around 19.55 rows, which is basically this number that I've gotten over here. And I believe I finally did it to around 20 rows. I don't think I was super nitpicky with this row count, but I think I did 20 rows. Now that we've gotten the width of my whole body over here, I need to know the length of my armhole. And so now we have to move on to the right hand side, which is this point over here. I know that Shirley Payton, for her schematic, she actually divided the armholes into 3 different sections. For me, I decided to divide it into 2 different sections. The one at the top, which I had crossed out this point over here, this is actually supposed to be some shoulder shaping, but given that mine is a saddle shoulder, I didn't really feel the need for it, so I decided to just incorporate that length into my neck depth. So the neck depth is actually this entire area over here, which I just highlighted over here. So it's basically this point on the neck to this point, and that is also a measurement that we had taken. For me, I didn't really trust my neck depth either, so I decided to just incorporate 2 inches of the neck depth into my sweater. So 2 inches is around 5 centimeters, and so now we're talking about row gauge. So 5 multiplied by 2.3, around 11.5 rows, or 11 rows to make things simple. I can't remember if I did 11 or 12 rows, but I believe I would have done an even number, so 12 rows. The total length of the area that I circled is basically your shoulder to armhole measurement. So my shoulder to armhole measurement is 11 cm, and how I arrived at 17 cm, that's because I wanted 6 cm of kind of positive ease at my underarms. For me, I wanted a bit more of a relaxed fit, not a loose oversized fit, but a relaxed fit. So I wanted it somewhere around here, and so that's why I decided to end up with around 6 cm of positive ease. 11 plus 6 is 17 cm. I minus that from my neck depth, 17 minus 5 gives me 12 cm. So the final area over here at the bottom is 12 cm times 2.3 rows, which gives me 27.6 rows, and I rounded that up to 28 rows. So that's how I arrived at 28 rows, which basically means that this 28 rows will be the front panel along with the back panel. The back panel has the extra length at the back, which the front panel is in a way not going to do, but the 12 cm over here is basically what I'll be doing for my front and my back. This 12 cm will be the length in which I am doing my increases for my armholes as well. So after you've gotten the 12 cm, that's when you can actually decide how frequent you want to do your increases for your armholes for. Let me just run through with you guys how I did the math for deciding how many increases I have to do for my underarms. So right now, let's just do it in a simple blue color. So my final stitch count has to be 80 stitches, and my current stitch count is 60 stitches. I have to give an allowance of 2 cast on stitches on either side because I have to cast on 8 stitches in total, but I have to divide it by 2 equally so that 4 stitches will be cast on for the front panel, 4 stitches will be cast on for the back panel. And so I have to do 20 increases, but actually 20 increases, but because I have to give allowance to the 4 cast on stitches, I minus 4 stitches, and that gives me 16 increases in total. So because I'm doing 16 increases, I want to do an equal increase on either side for the right and the left armholes. I'm going to divide it by 2 because I want to figure out how many rows I have to increase by. So to figure out how many rows I have to increase by, I do 16 divided by 2, which gives me 8 rows that I have to do my increases on. Because every row that is an increased row, I'm increasing one time on the right side and another time on the left side. So every one increased row gives me 2 extra stitches, and so that's why I did 16 increases divided by 2, which gives me 8 rows. So now that I do 8 rows, I am only increasing on every knit round, and I am not increasing on the purl round, just to make things simple for myself. So basically my one row will be an increased row, and then one row, which is the purl, will have no increase. And so this gives me a set of 8 sets. So my rows have to be 8 sets of increase, which basically means 16 rows of stockinette. Knowing that I have 28 rows to work with, I just did 28 minus 16, which gives me 12. I believe it gives me 12 rows. So that gives me 12 rows of plain stockinette to knit up before I start doing my increases, which are 8 rows of increases, or more specifically 8 sets of increases. I hope this makes sense, and I hope it helps you guys with doing your measurements and your math as well. So that's how I did mine. Alright, it's one of those situations where I have 1 hour to knit before work, and then I have to leave for work. Every time when I come home from work, it is already well and truly past the setting of the sun. So I usually use natural daylight, no extra light for filming, so that's why I kind of only film in the morning, even though I can't really show as much progress as I could if I were to film like at the end of the day maybe. But I just want to show you what I've done so far. I know I haven't yet come here with any updates, but this is the current situation. Really nothing much to show for it. I think I started a couple of days ago, but I didn't manage to do as much knitting as I planned for or wanted to do. So this is the current situation. Right now I started on my saddle shoulder. This is the left hand side, this is the right hand side. I have cast on stitches as well for my back panel, and my saddle shoulder is really small because I kind of want a not so oversized fit. So my saddle shoulder is going to stop right at the edge of my shoulders. It's not a drop shoulder. Saddle shoulder design is just a saddle shoulder in itself, and so it's pretty short, and I wanted it to have a little braiding already right at the start at the top of my shoulder, so something like that. Of course, because it's so short, it can't do a full braid, so it is currently looking something like that for now, and I already had to frog one time. I currently have 3 active balls of yarn going on at the same time. They're each connected to each saddle shoulder, and then one new ball is being used for the back panel. Reason being, if I have to frog, I do not want to waste so much yarn and end up having to add on more yarn. I am now realizing that I may need to change the cast on method. we'll see. I'm not so sure. We'll see. Alright, so I have frogged it. Round 2 of frogging, but I finished frogging and recasting all my stitches. So this is how it looks like right now. I think it looks much better. This is what happens when I try to knit at night when I'm half asleep and I end up messing up and ending up having to undo everything that I did last night. So it was actually pointless. I should have just slept earlier and then started knitting earlier. So this is the current situation. Before that, my stitches were not both facing outwards, so I redid it. And now I am going to work German short rows for my back panel. Turns out I only had like maybe 40 minutes to knit, but I finished my German short row shaping for the back panel. So this is how it looks like right now. I think it looks absolutely beautiful. I love all the colorful specks that are coming out, but I have a small gripe because why are all the cute flecks on the inner surface of my sweater? And on the outer it is much more muted looking. Anyway, this is turning out super cute so far. I don't know if I can put it over myself to show you guys. Something like that. Oops. It looks something like that. It will turn out super cute. I can see the vision. It is coming together. I was worried that the neckline may be a bit too wide. Let me just try it one more time. Yeah, I think it looks okay. Okay, so this is how it fits on my body so far. I'm not sure. I'm trying to look at it through the viewfinder, but this is how it looks like. After I pick up stitches for the back portion, it is definitely gonna cinch in a little bit more, so I'm just hoping for that to happen. Yeah, so something like that. I will recalculate how many stitches I need to pick up for my back portion, but yeah, I think it looks okay. I was worried that my saddle shoulder would end up being really short as well and thin, but I think it is okay actually. It covers just my shoulders, and because it is not too wide that is drooping over on either side of my shoulder, it's actually looking a little bit more chic in that sense. So yeah, I'm really happy with how this is turning out. So currently I am just going to, when I come home from work, gonna just keep working flat in stockinette and then start doing my increases, and that'll be all for the back panel. Hopefully I can get to the front panel by tomorrow. So it has been a couple of days since the last time I updated you guys with my knitting progress for my sweater, and I have actually done quite a fair bit since. I believe the last time I came over here to update you guys was when I finished the back panel, I think, so this portion over here. I've since finished the front panel. I have joined in around and knitted this much stitches, and then I ran out of yarn, so I decided to go back and work on my collar as always. I really wanted to see if my collar would cinch in a little bit more. So I did a collar and I did a 2x3, so a 2 knit stitches and 3 purl stitches, folded collar, and I'm really liking how it turned out. I just think that I may have picked up a few too many stitches. It only became apparent after I finished knitting down and binding down the collar, and I realized it kind of flared out a little bit, but I think for the most part I think I'm just not used to a sweater that is not a turtleneck, so when it's a crew neck it just feels a little bit too open. I think I'll get used to it afterwards. The main thing that I do not really like about the sweater so far is the German short row shaping for the back portion, for the back panel, because I did it and it looked okay, and then I picked up for the collar and now there is a weird bulge going on over here. I did watch a previous YouTube video before, so this is not new to me that there may be this kind of bulge going on. It was a YouTube video by Wool Needles Hands, and she talked about how she did her sabai top and she had a bulge on her sabai top as well. I think for mine it is not so apparent, and I'm hoping it evens out a little bit after blocking, but even if it stays like that, I'm still okay with it. It's at the back portion. I don't think for the most part it is too obvious. It could be that maybe I did too many German short rows and then it caused the back portion to tilt up way too much. I did try to space it out a little bit more though, so I did it, I think, 4 stitches apart, which I think for the size of the stitches, maybe I could have done 5 stitches apart. Maybe it would have been a little bit better, but anyway, not too big a deal for me at least. And I have also picked up for the sleeves over here, I did a little bit of braiding. I realized that my braiding was wrong, so I actually had to go back and redo it. And I have been doing some decreases over here from my sleeve as well, over here. Yeah, so I am doing a decrease every other row, and the reason being I didn't want my sleeve at the end to be too oversized, and I wanted to finish the decreases before I did the ribbing, and the ribbing is an exaggerated ribbing. So I wanted to do a bit more of a frequent decrease so that by the time I get to the ribbing, I will be more or less done with the decreases. So that's the plan for this sleeve, and then I'm going to finish both of my sleeves, and after that I'll be mostly done with the sweater. Just have to work on the body and the ribbing. Right now this body I will try on and show you guys later. So the color is really not the best. Yeah, it's kind of like coming outwards as well. It's like tilting backwards. So I do think I may have picked up too many stitches here. It is the next day currently, and the amount of times I have frocked this portion of my cables, insane. I think I frocked it 4 times because the first time I did it wrongly, and then the second time, I mean I did everything wrongly, but the last time I had to redo it because I realized I was doing my cables wrong and it didn't look like braids at all. But now it is finally coming together. You can tell that this part looks really loose, but I'm not going back to change it anymore. I just can't anymore with this. So this is the current situation. When I hold it down like that, it doesn't really look like braids, but if I were to like kind of pull it up like that, like when it's going down my arm, you can kind of tell it is more braid-like. It is meant to be like that because I wanted a loose kind of braiding. That's what I'm doing. I am doing the braiding every 12 rows. So actually no, every 13 rows. So I'm doing 12 rows of just the normal following the pattern, no cables, and then on the 13th row I will do the cables. So yeah, that is the plan so far. Anyway, I have to leave for work in around 15 minutes, so I don't think I will be knitting or filming too much. So yeah, that is the plan for today. When I come home, I'm definitely going to try to get more of the sleeve done. It is currently Wednesday, so my goal for this week is to finish both sleeves and then get started on, or at least continue on with the body. I am not planning to finish the body by this week. I don't think I can do that, but I'm hoping to at least get the bulk of the body done as well, so that come next week I can just start on the ribbing. And I think the ribbing might potentially be something that I have to rip out a lot as well, because I am planning to do the ribbing with the German short rows, and I've never done that before. Same like I have never done braided cables before. So yeah, I potentially see myself making a lot of mistakes with that. So that is my plan for this week. So it is the next day now, and I had to frock my sleeve last night for, I believe, the 4th time, but I am finally done with my right sleeve. I redid it last night. I frocked everything, redid it from the pickup edges, and I'm finally done with my sleeve. For today, my goal is that I have a whole day free to knit, and I'm hoping to be able to maybe get done with the second sleeve. I'm not sure if that's possible, but I managed to do this in a day, so I think it should be fine. So the reason why I had to frock for the 4th time is because I didn't like the rate of decreases that I was doing. So currently you can see that my sleeve is tapering at a much more gradual pace. Before that, and I'm sorry if you can hear the rain, it's actually pouring outside right now, I was decreasing every other row, and I hated how it looked like. It was tapering in way too much. Yeah, so because of that, I decided to undo everything, and I am now decreasing every 5 rows. The first 1 inch, I think I did the first 3 cm of no decreases, so just knitting in around without any decreases. I believe you can see the point where I did my first decrease somewhere over here, and then it tapers in from then on, and now it gives this very gentle slope, which I like so much better. Since I was going to frock back, I decided that I wanted to increase the wedge of my German short rows as well. So instead of doing a turn every 4 stitches, I changed to 5 stitches, but I did the same number of turns. But because I did 5 stitches past each double stitch, it results in a much wider wedge as compared to if I just did 4 stitches. And the last thing that I changed is also my braiding. So this is the final braid look. Before this, I was doing the cable every 12 rows, every 13 rows. So I did 12 rows of just knitting straight in pattern, and then on the 13th row I did the cable. And I decided that it was a bit too loose for my liking. As much as I want a really loose braid, this was way too loose for me. So since I was undoing everything, I decided to undo this portion as well. And I did 10 rows of knitting in pattern, and on the 11th row I would do the cable instead. So that is like 2 rows shorter, and it results in a slightly tighter braid, but still loose enough that the final look is still there. And then finally I did around 8 cm of ribbing, and this is how the ribbing looks like. Once again, I did combination knitting, and it was perfect because look at the ribbing that lines up with the 3 pearl rolls on either side of my pattern. I think it looks super neat, and I am very happy with how it turned out. And I'll show you guys how it looks like on as well. I think she looks super good, fitting really well. So this is how my body looks like. I have way more to go, like there's much more to go, which I'm hoping to get done by the end of this week. And then this sleeve over here, I'm not really sure if it's showing, but over here, this is the sleeve. This is how it looks like on me. I love the fit. It is definitely a little bit baggy over here, which is what I want, because when I did my rapid decreases and I tried it on my t-shirt underneath, if I were to wear a loose t-shirt underneath, which I mostly do when I go to a cold country, I wear a loose baggy t-shirt underneath, the sleeves will get scrunched up inside. So I don't want that because that is super uncomfortable. And so I decided to do this instead. It is so much better, and I love the saddle shoulder. It just makes this part look really nice and sleek, and also the German shoulders just really help to define that sleeve cap as well. So yeah, all in all, super loving this, and I'm going to get started on my second sleeve now. I'm definitely hoping that I will fly by my second sleeve because all the mistakes have already been made, so I can just follow the whole pattern all the way through without having to make any more changes. Anyway, I want to show you guys the tea that I'm drinking today as well. I'm drinking some ujicha, yeah, like that. And I love this tea. This is like my favorite tea. I've picked up my stitches for my left sleeve, and this is how it's looking like so far. I'm going to start working on the German short rows, and I'm also going to mirror the braids that I did for the right sleeve. I want it to look symmetrical, so the left and the right actually has to be mirrored in order for that to happen. So yeah, I'm going to be working my German short rows now. So I finished doing the German short rows for my left sleeve, and this is how it looks like currently. I just wanted to show it to you guys because I didn't manage to show it with the other sleeve. So just being able to see how the wedge actually helps to create a nice slope down for the sleeve cap, which I think looks really nice and helps for a more tailored fit of the sleeve. And once it gets to around 9 rounds, I will start to do the decreases for my sleeve as well. It is currently 1 hour and 43 minutes on knitting this second sleeve, and I have knit this much. So I have finished my German short rows, I have finished my 9 rounds of no decreases, and I have reached the point where I'm starting to do the decreases for the sleeves, which I'm really excited about because that makes the sleeve get progressively faster. And I have also joined in a new ball of yarn, so over here, and I am curious to see how far this ball of yarn will take me. So I am loving how this tweed yarn is knitting up so far. Let me show it to you. Honestly, it doesn't look like there are that many tweed flecks on the ball of yarn. You can definitely see quite a few going on, but it doesn't look that many. And look at that, it looks so nice. Look at the colors, and I love all these little flecks that are over here on the sleeve. You know, when I am just like knitting up and I see some of these interesting flecks over here, like this green and this bright orange here, and I'm just hoping that it ends up on the right side of the sweater, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I'm curious to see how far this ball of yarn takes me. I'm hoping and I'm thinking I should be able to finish the entire second sleeve with just this ball of yarn, so I'm hoping that that would be the case. Okay, so it has been a couple of hours since I filmed, I think. Actually, no, maybe it's just been 1 hour, but I have finished my ball of yarn. I genuinely thought that it was going to last me an entire sleeve. And since I ran out of yarn, I thought it would be a good time as ever to show you guys how the sleeve currently looks like, because I unfortunately didn't manage to do that with the other sleeve. So this is how it looks like. It is really nice. It's baggy, which I like because I want to be able to fit layers underneath this sweater, but not too baggy that is way too oversized. And you can see a really gentle taper as well. I'm pretty sure after it blocks out, it will look a bit better as well. And after picking up stitches for both sleeves, I am realizing how much more I have to go for the body. And the sleeve over here is a little bit short. I'm trying my best to show you guys how it looks like right now, but it kind of ends just above my wrist, which is too short for my liking, so it ends somewhere around here, and I'm hoping after blocking it will end up somewhere around here, so just maybe 1 inch of growth, which I think will happen because with cables, granted these are pretty loose cables, but I do think they will grow, especially since this is wool. It will still grow after blocking as well, so I'm not too worried about it. And I think after adding the sleeves as well, there is some weight that kind of holds the collar down, and so it sits pretty nice now, and I'm really happy with how everything is fitting. So I'm just really glad with how everything is turning out, and I will continue working on the sleeves and I will get back to you guys on it. I'm not sure if I'll be filming for the rest of the day because I kind of want to take a break, but we'll see. If I'm able to, I will update you guys. Okay, it is the next day and I managed to finish my sleeve, and this is my second sleeve. So over here, I just did a regular binder for this, and then I got started working on my body, and I think I overestimated how much of the body I had to do because, oh my god, I think there's a fuzz in my hair. Remember how I said I wanted to end right above my belly button and then change the ribbing, which goes all the way down to the bottom of the button of my high-waisted jeans? And so I think I overestimated how much of the body I had to do, and so I didn't film anything yesterday, and I'm actually already done with the stockinette portion. So this is how the sweater looks like. It looks pretty short right now, but because I'm doing a long ribbing, and also because it's curling up quite a fair bit, and I'm also kind of compensating for the stretch that will come about after I block my sweater. This is the current state of the ribbing that's going on here. I am doing a split hem, and I am also wanting to do the curved ribbing for both my front and my back panels, and I haven't gotten to that point yet. I'm still unsure if I should just follow the 20 rows that I did over here. I feel like it looks a little bit short. Maybe I'll stick to 20 rows for the front panel, but for the back panel I'll do a few more rows than that because I want the back panel to be longer than the front panel. So, but anyway, this is the plan for today. I've got to go, unfortunately, but this is my progress. This is how much I've gotten done. I'm not even sure if it's significant, but I just did a couple of rows, maybe 3. And I tried to do combination knitting for this ribbing, but somehow it is just so much neater when I'm doing it in the round versus doing it flat, which is kind of unfortunate. I was contemplating initially to just rip it all out and go back in and just do, once again, my modified version of the twisted rib, but I am too lazy to do that. I just think I'll just continue on with this. Like, it's not that messy that I can't deal with it, but it's just I wish it was slightly neater as compared to this. I can't wait to get to the German short row aspect of this ribbing because I'm trying to figure it out, and I'm trying to think if I should kind of vary how far apart I should place my double stitches to create that nice gradual curve. So I'm hoping to finish this ribbing part so that I can get to the other aspect and start to figure that part out. So it is Sunday. I think I can do plenty of knitting today, but I just want to show you guys the progress so far and the fit of the sweater as well. So this is the sweater if it's not rolled up, and then I'm going to do a little bit more of ribbing and it will extend to the base of the button of my high-waisted jeans over here. This one's not super high-waisted, but I do wear it occasionally when I go to colder countries. This is the sleeve so far, and then this is the back. I wanted to show you guys the back because you can see the ribbing that I've done quite a fair bit of, and I definitely still have some ways to go before I do the German short rows for the curve. So I want the ribbing to end maybe somewhere here, so maybe I'm halfway there. So this is how it looks like so far. I am super happy with the sweater. I think it's turning out really nice. At first I was thinking of doing a little bit of a longer collar because I feel like it looks a little bit too wide and my t-shirts underneath might show, but yeah, I'm not sure if I should just knit a little bit more. Maybe just a couple more rows. I'll see if I have time to redo this collar. Alright, so I have finished my ribbing and this is how it looks like. I did it a little bit longer than my cuffs for my sleeve. At first I was following my sleeve, so I was planning to do initially 20 rows as well, but I decided that I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do a little bit longer, so I did 4 extra rows. And now I am on to do the German short rows, so I'm excited. I hope it turns out well. I am going to knit all the way to 2 stitches before the end of the round, and then I'm going to do my turn. I have finished my German short rows and I've also binded off, and this is how it looks like. I think the ribbing was starting to turn out really long, so I didn't really want it to be too long. Otherwise, I may have done one more set of German short rows, but I think I'm okay with how it looks like actually. Like, of course right now it looks a bit lopsided because I've yet to block it and the ribbing is kind of cinching in, but especially for this side over here, I think it's pretty obvious. You can see a little bit of a curvature. So I did 3 German short row turns on either side and it results in this really nice slight curve, because for the back I did 4 extra rows, so 24 rows and then 3 German short row turns on either side. So for the front side, which is what I'm going to be doing now, I will be doing just 20 rows and then I'll start on my German short rows. So the front will be just slightly shorter than the back portion. Alright, so this is my sweater all done. This is how she looks like. I actually managed to finish doing the front ribbing of my sweater over here. Finished the front ribbing and this is how this side looks like, a little bit curved up. There's still a little bit of like a little corner over here which I am not sure how to get rid of. I don't think it will look exactly like the Astrid sweater, but it's fine. I think I'm still okay with how this looks like. And I also made the ribbing a little bit longer, if you can tell, and I love this ribbing so much more. This much was like 10 rows I think, and now it is 15, or maybe it was even less than that. I think I doubled it. I think I doubled this. I can't really remember exactly how much I doubled it by, but this is how it looks like currently, and I love it so much more because you can see that the collar kind of goes up a little bit now, and this gives it more of the mock turtleneck, crew neck kind of collar that I was looking for. And this is how my sweater looks like pre-blocked, and my sleeves are a little bit short. I tried to accommodate my sleeves a little bit more because of the fact that there are cables here, so by nature of the cables it will cinch in a little bit. And so I'm just hoping that it will stretch out a little bit more after blocking, but this is otherwise how my sweater looks like. And this is the back portion. It's currently all super cinched in, so I'm hoping that it will kind of go around here when it's done. Let's block it right now. So this is how my final sweater looks like, and I am super happy with how she turned out. I'm just looking at it through the viewfinder and I think it looks absolutely beautiful. Let me just show you guys how the sweater changed from before blocking to after blocking. The main thing that I really liked is my sleeves. It is at a perfect length right now. I will just overlay a video as well. But it is at such a perfect length, and if I were to just rest my arms down, this is kind of where it ends up at. So I am really happy with how it turned out. The main thing also is the ribbing. It really looks super beautiful right now. It is just super neat, and I love how it blocked out. My ribbing for the collar stretched out quite a little bit, so now my t-shirt underneath can be seen a tiny bit, and I am not the most pleased about that. I liked it better when my collar was kind of upwards like that and like cinched in a little bit more. So I think there is a chance that I might just loop an elastic through to just kind of hold my ribbing in place, because I feel like it kind of lost a little bit of its structure post blocking. But other than that, I think the blocking process really helped my sweater bloom perfectly. The only thing though is that I wish that I pinned, this has to do with the blocking process, not the knitting process, but I just wished I pinned my sweater down differently with regard to the sleeves, because I pinned it for the sleeves like this way, which is how I normally pin it, so that I can get a nice crisp edge over here. However, because I did that, my cables actually didn't have the chance to open up as much as I wanted them to, so now it looks kind of still cinched in a little bit. This one is opening up a little bit better, but over here is still really tight. Not sure if I should reblock it to kind of, and then pull it kind of a little bit more. Like, I'll just block the sleeves if I have to reblock it, but anyway, this is how it looks like. And have I said it enough? But I love how the sweater turned out, and I think that this yarn is just really nice as well. I love that I used a slightly bigger needle size than what was recommended. The recommended needle size for this, I believe, is 4 to 4.5mm needles. I used, or maybe 4mm needles, I think was the recommended needle size, and I used 5mm needles. I am a bit of a tighter knitter, so you know, that kind of compensates for the fact that I used a larger needle. But even so, the outcome, the final drape of the sweater is just so drapey, and I love it. It's just so luxurious to wear. I'm actually only wearing a t-shirt underneath, so no underlayers, and this is not scratchy to me at all. I really find it quite okay. I think my threshold for the scratchiness of yarns is pretty high, so I'm not sure if I'm like the best representation of how scratchy this yarn is, but to me I don't find it to be very scratchy at all. I do believe I can just wear it like that over a t-shirt and I would totally be fine. No discomfort or anything of that sort. Love the sleeves. I'm so glad I went back to redo it, because this rate of decreases is so much better than before. So I'm really happy that I tried self-drafting a sweater. I never thought I would do it because, I don't know, to me, when I first started with crochet, every garment that I did was more or less self-drafted. And yet for knitting, I could not gain the confidence to do so. I don't know why. I think it's something about everything being live stitches that just made it seem all that much more daunting. I'm not so sure, but for knitting, I just did not dare to do any self-drafted garments until this video. So I'm really thankful to Craftsy for the class that they provided in teaching how to self-draft your own garments, and I think that really helped me to gain the confidence in gaining the first step in learning how to self-draft a garment and the thought process that goes on behind coming up with a self-drafted garment. And maybe next time I'll do a self-drafted top. I'm not so sure. We'll see if that ever comes to fruition, but for now, I'm super happy with my sweater. If you stayed to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching this video. I spent so much time on this video, and if you enjoyed it and if it helped you in some way, do let me know in the comments down below. I would love to know what you are self-drafting, or if you have ever self-drafted any garments, I would love to know what you guys made. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!